This paper will critically reflect a teaching episode I encountered with a Year 9 class in Term 4, Week 6, whose behaviour was nearly impeccable and engagement was high, and they had a high expectation set by their teacher. Year 9F was undertaking their final assessment task of a scientific report about neutralisation from the unit Acids and Bases in Science. Their teacher had already explained the expectations and how to write a scientific report. Thus, I taught the initial lesson on neutralisation. The aim of this lesson was that they are able to identify and describe a reaction of an acid with a base, are able to understand what is involved in neutralisation, and their success criteria was students are able to apply the correct reactants and products to form a neutralisation reaction. This lesson wasn't as successful as planned due to the concluding formative assessment displaying many students were still confused. I personally believe the boys behaved well, but did not retain vital information from the initial lesson structure. The lesson was structured in correlation with a PowerPoint presentation. This lesson wasn't as successful as planned due to the concluding formative assessment showing students were still confused. I personally believe the boys behaved well, but did not retain vital information from the initial lesson structure. The PowerPoint presentation outlining acids and bases was not effective. Yet, from what I can understand from personal experience, is boys often learn at an increased rate from practical activities, in which they can see the chemical changes occurring and then come back to ask questions, analyse and self-reflect. Thus, influential in their success is their ability to participate in a hands-on environment stimulating their spatial mechanical functioning. This connects to research by Gurion, which suggests that when boys are engaged in a hands-on kinesthetic activity, they are utilising their innate spatial mechanical ability. Thus, this method allows boys to develop their learning and understanding easier, as their spatial mechanical functioning is double the size compared to their verbal and motive function. Therefore, when critically reflecting on my lesson, I primarily engage the boys through a behaviourist approach. The core of behaviourism is a teacher focus centre, lecturing to the students in a PowerPoint mode. Thus, in my lesson, the delivery of information regarding acids, bases, and how they neutralise was utilised through a PowerPoint and verbalising the information. Thus, when transferring this information, my students took a very minimal percentage of information then compared to a hands-on approach. My lesson also included a small aspect of the constructivist approach in the form of an interactive activity to consolidate knowledge and conclude my lesson. The constructivist approach is vitally important and allows boys to transfer knowledge, as its core principles is to build an understanding and make sense of new information through active learning. Thus, this online activity allowed the boys to formulate new ideas and conclusions on what an acid and a base consists of through active participation and research. The conclusion of my lesson, I believe, was the most successful aspect of my lesson, as I used a Google forum to not only assess my students through formative assessment, but also as a means for receiving teacher feedback. The questions posed allowed the boys to actively re-engage in their learning matter, identify concepts that they understood, as well as concepts that need further elaboration, increasing their metacognition. This feedback sheet is ultimately the main reason for reflecting, enabling myself as a teacher to alter my teaching style in order to attain the best from my particular students. The Google forum also allows the boys who would not normally participate the chance to give feedback on what they do and don't understand through an anonymous approach. Consequently, my future classroom will be structured with different aspects in order to stimulate and cater to my Year 9 boys precisely. Previously, I would have taught with my PowerPoint slide and completed an activity. However, I will now endeavour to incorporate multiple kinesthetic and spatial approaches, as boys need to be stimulated and moving. Therefore, I will incorporate Howard Gardner's theory of multiple intelligence, which allows the teacher to implement differentiated learning utilising different mediums. Subsequently, I will differentiate my Year 9 science class into a kinesthetic and spatial approach, as according to Sachs, Bonomo and Gurion, boys learn at an increased rate through actively engaging their spatial mechanical functioning aspect of their brain. Thus, I will incorporate spatial intelligence through interactive activities and videos of reactions, enhancing their ability to comprehend and perform activities. I will also utilise demonstrations to which the boys can then mimic and participate in experiments utilising the kinesthetic approach, accessing the Molly Mod kits. These Molly Mod kits will allow the boys to demonstrate the neutralization reaction through actively creating the molecules involved in the reaction. This displays higher order processing and comprehension. Subsequently, I will strive to differentiate the curriculum in order to engage and meet the specific learning requirements of my students, creating an inclusive environment.